Hey guys, in this video we're taking a look at Sonic Lost World. It's a Wii U and Steam release that, in my opinion, is severely underrated and underappreciated. This is a rather colorful and inviting box art for children, and kids are the main demographic and target group for this game. However, I feel that overall it's a rather awkwardly put together box art. I rather like how they placed all the 6 bad guys at the top there. However, I feel that Sonic is rather awkwardly slapped on the background there. So that could have been a lot better, and his model looks rather bland because of poor lighting, maybe. I don't know. On the other hand, the disc looks absolutely great. I love the composition on the disc. It's really good. It really captures that sense of speed while, managing to present what Sonic Lost World is all about. The title maybe could have been placed slightly lower, but I don't think that's that big an issue. Well guys, now let's see what I have to say about the game and why I like it as much as I do. Sonic's transition from 2D to 3D was rather painful, and while I did enjoy the Sonic Adventure games on the Dreamcast back then, I feel they aged rather poorly. On the other hand, I really loved Sonic Unleashed. I'll probably get hate for that, and really enjoyed Sonic Colors on the Wii, and of course Sonic Generations is an outstanding game. However, in my opinion, all these games had problems with the controls. They were too sensitive and just not as precise as I'd like my 3D platformer controls to be. I guess the reason for that is because Sonic always tried to maintain his signature Sonic speed, and that never quite worked well for the control scheme those games were using. Now, Sonic Lost World attempts to fix this at the cost of speed. What we have here are 2 different types of movement that the player can switch between on the fly as needed. We have a slightly slower jog and a full-on run, neither of which are as fast as what we are used to in 3D Sonic games. Whether or not this is a problem for the player is a personal preference. I think it fits this particular game quite well, and while I don't believe that all future Sonic games should be at this pace, I think that finding a good balance between Sonic's movement speed in Sonic Lost World and previous 3D Sonic games is needed for him to control properly in 3D space. As far as gameplay goes, Sonic Lost World doesn't really break any new ground, and it shouldn't. It's a 3D platformer, and in this day and age when we rarely see this type of games, it's a welcome change in my opinion. The fact that it has tried and true gameplay mechanics is the reason why I love this game so much. It's easy to just pick up and play and understand what needs to be done. Now, Sonic does have some new moves. For example, there's wall running and 2 different types of attack. Sonic has his usual jumping attack, or homing attack as it's called, where you jump and hit the jump button again to slam your enemies. And there's also a kick attack now, which functions pretty much the same way as the other one, except it allows you to kick certain enemies into other enemies in the area and defeat them that way, or stun them, or whatever. The player needs to learn to combine and use both attacks as needed. Now, one thing I really love about Sonic Lost World is the fact that its levels, and especially the 3D levels this time, have multiple different paths. They all lead to the same goal, of course, but how you reach that goal can differ between different playthroughs of the same level, and this is the type of game that has short levels. They're easy to just pick up and play, and the fact that they have multiple paths makes them that much more fun to replay. Speaking of replaying levels, this is the type of game that I often go to as my pick up and play game for relaxation, and the levels are very short, and once you learn them they're even shorter, so it's a fantastic game to just pick up and play when you want something easy and fun to play for a little bit. Now, I often go back and replay the 3D levels as I don't feel very comfortable in the 2D levels, and that's because, I guess, call me old-fashioned, but I don't like it when I play 2D games and have no way to control my character with the D-pad. Analog control is the only way to move Sonic in both 3D and 2D space, and to me that's a problem. I understand that most people nowadays don't care and are used to controlling 2D games with an analog stick, but for whatever reason it really bothers me, so I try and stay away from the 2D levels. They're not bad by any means, don't get me wrong, they're just, they don't control the way I'd like them to. Just instinctively, I go for the D-pad, and instead of, controlling Sonic, I end up listing my achievements, which I never bothered to achieve because I don't care about achievements in video games. Throughout the levels, Sonic picks up different types of power-ups. We first saw these power-ups in Sonic Colors on the Wii, and here in Lost World, some of them work better than others. However, honestly, I could do without them all. The laser power-up is decent enough, it's fun to use and easy to understand. The drill power-up is fine, however it's only used in certain segments where it's needed to be used, so they're rather forced on the player in some cases. Then there are power-ups that I don't know how to use, or maybe they're just broken, which I strongly doubt. I probably don't know how to use them properly. And overall, I could do without the power-ups. They just feel tacked on and unnecessary in my opinion. However, they're not something that lowers the enjoyment of the game for me, so, maybe some people like them, so they don't bother me at all. Now, Sonic Lost World has outstanding art direction. I really love the way the world has this sort of mechanical look to it. Even natural environments have a certain mechanical look and feel to them, and I find it rather impressive. As far as colors go, it does something that I never thought I'd see in a Sega game ever again. Not even the other 3D Sonic games do this. It kind of goes back to those slightly overly saturated colors we used to see on the Sega Mega Drive and Sega Genesis in some games. The blues and the greens really are reminiscent of the type of blue and green colors we used to see on the Mega Drive. I want to say games like Alicia Dragoon and the Sonic games all had these type of colors, and it's a very nostalgic game even though it's a brand new 3D game, so as far as art goes, I'm very happy with it. Lost World's environments are rather diverse, and while the world is separated by different themed zones, we have a desert and an ice zone, we have some sort of a jungle and so on. And here's the best part. The levels in each zone, while thematically similar, are different enough to always keep the player amused and entertained. And some of these levels even stand out. For example, the desert zone has a level that is rather tripped up. It's all set in some sort of, world of sweets or something. We have a level that in the ice zone we have the casino level, which looks absolutely stunning and is a lot of fun to play. So each of these zones has some levels that sort of stand out and break the norm, and even those that do not are always fun. There's a huge environmental diversity in Sonic Lost World, and that's something I greatly appreciate and really love, and I feel it was rather underrated and underappreciated by people in general. The game makes sure to always amuse and entertain the player, and I don't understand why some people hate this game so much, because there's nothing wrong with the game. It's a fine, simple 3D platformer that you can just pick up and play, that you can go back to and replay your favorite levels. There's nothing wrong with the game. It's not perfect. No game is perfect. It has its flaws. I guess the jumping mechanics could have been better. There's, controls are good, but they could have been maybe slightly better. But overall, the game is great. This game has so much to offer. So what if it's different from other Sonic games? That doesn't make it bad, it just makes it different. It's an actually genuinely good 3D platformer that just so happens to feature Sonic. Now, I forgot to say one more thing about Sonic and his design as far as art direction goes. Given to the game's theme, I believe, and I firmly believe, that Sonic's old design, now those of you younger viewers may not be familiar with this, but what happened is, in the early 2000s or late 90s, when the Dreamcast came out, Sega's last console, Sega changed Sonic's design. They made him slightly, I guess they made him older, they made him taller, and he kind of lost that sort of Mickey Mouse Disney look he had. I believe that Sonic Lost World would have been absolutely perfect artistically had it gone back to the old designs from the Sega Genesis games, from the old cartoons like Sonic Saturday AM, the original Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. That character design would have been absolutely perfect for Sonic Lost World, and I really don't like the fact that it uses the modern designs. They're not bad, they're just not fitting for this particular game. It's too whimsical, it's too, fairy tale-like to be using these modern designs, in my opinion. At the end, it's all about marketing and what makes the money, so I guess this design is more familiar to players nowadays, so they went with this one. Speaking of Sonic Lost World's whimsical nature, I must say that this game absolutely excels at its soundtrack. It has an incredible musical score. The music is very, very fitting for each and every environment in the game, and it really adds to the game's magical and just beautiful atmosphere. Now, the voice acting is decent enough. It's your typical cartoony voice acting, which complements the simple cartoony story we've come to expect and enjoy in Sonic games. I feel that when they try to make the stories more complex, they really fail at it, so keeping the stories simple and easy to understand for kids is the way to go. And Sonic Lost World does a really good job at this. All the characters are very charming, even the bad guys have distinct personalities. They're cliché personalities, they're not something we haven't seen before, but they come off as very charming and likable. They never fail to bring a smile to your face.
Does this mean no dessert?
In fact, this whole game is bound to bring a smile to somebody's face. It's an easy, straightforward game where, yes, you will be dying a lot, but you have to understand that this game practically gives you an unlimited number of lives. If you know where to farm these lives, and it's pretty obvious where you can get a ton of lives in a very short amount of time. So you don't have to worry about dying, you don't have to worry about losing your progress because the game has very generous checkpoints throughout the levels. The only thing that you need to worry about is having fun, and this game feels like a beautiful Disney cartoon full of whimsical and memorable moments. Yes, I mean, this is a Sonic game that doesn't really have that Sonic attitude so much as it really does feel like a children's cartoon full of moments that kids are bound to be impressed and inspired by. We have giant monsters, we have giant fruit just, rolling around the levels, we have all sorts of interesting environments and interesting boss fights where the bosses talk to the player, and so the game as a whole made me very happy, and it's a game I always go back to and just play some of my favorite levels and have a good time with. You don't have to finish the game if you don't feel like finishing it. Just play the levels you like to play and enjoy every second of it, because this is a great game. I wholeheartedly recommend this game to people who have younger kids, to people who want their imagination sparked, similar to, the way I felt about Yoshi's Woolly World, I also feel about this game. Albeit this is admittedly a flawed game in some aspects. I'm not saying it's a perfect game like Yoshi's Woolly World was, but it's a great game. It's a wonderful game that really inspires me as an artist to create beautiful things of my own. Once again, I really wish it used the old Sonic designs instead of the new ones. That's my only problem with the game. That's the only serious problem I have with this game. So guys, that's about it. I really hope that you give this game an honest chance and enjoy it for what it is and not hate it for what it is not.